The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened in the crystal spires of Nexus Prime, their seat of power for the past 12,000 years. Representatives from 47 civilizations sat in the circular chamber, their varied forms creating a bizarre tapestry of evolution's countless experiments. The Zephyrians floated in their containment bubbles, their gaseous bodies shimmering with nervous energy. The crystalline Kethmori clicked and chimed as they shifted in their seats, while the insectoid Vraktar buzzed their wings in agitation. At the center of it all sat High Chancellor Mordan of the Celestial Hegemony, his 6 arms folded across his chest as he surveyed the chaos before him. The reports had been flooding in for weeks now, each more disturbing than the last. A new species had been discovered on the outer rim of the galaxy, and their rate of technological advancement was nothing short of terrifying. The data is irrefutable, announced Dr. Veltar, the Council's chief xenobiologist. The tall, gray-skinned academic projected a holographic display that filled the chamber's center. In merely 200 of their local years, they have progressed from primitive flying machines to splitting the atom. In another 60 years, they achieved spaceflight. They call themselves humans, and their homeworld is designated as Sol 3, though they refer to it as Earth. A collective shudder ran through the assembly. The Galactic Council had existed for millennia, maintaining peace and stability through careful management of technological development. Most species took between 5 and 10,000 years to achieve spaceflight after discovering fire. The humans had done it in less than 12,000. Impossible, hissed Ambassador Asidhar of the Reptilian Consortium, his forked tongue tasting the air nervously. No species develops that rapidly without external intervention. They must have discovered ancient technology or received aid from a precursor civilization. Dr. Veltar shook his head, his large black eyes reflecting the holographic data. We have monitored them continuously since they achieved radio communication. There is no evidence of external influence. Their advancement appears to be entirely organic, driven by what they call innovation and competition. The word competition sent another wave of unease through the chamber. Most civilized species had abandoned such primitive concepts millennia ago, instead embracing cooperation and careful, measured progress under the Council's guidance. Show them the warfare analysis, demanded General Krixval of the military coalition, his cybernetic implants glowing red with agitation. Dr. Veltar hesitated, then activated another series of holographic displays. The humans engage in what they term total war. Unlike the ritualized conflicts common among younger species, human warfare involves the complete mobilization of their civilization's resources. They have developed weapons capable of rendering their entire planet uninhabitable, yet they continue to create even more destructive technologies. The chamber erupted in alarmed chatter. War, as practiced by civilized species, was a formal affair with strict rules and limited casualties. The concept of total war, of fighting until one side was completely destroyed, was considered barbaric beyond measure. They also demonstrate remarkable adaptability, Dr. Veltar continued, his voice cutting through the noise. When faced with global pandemics, they developed countermeasures within months. When their planet's climate began to change due to their industrial activities, they created technologies to reverse the damage while simultaneously developing methods to survive in hostile environments. Most disturbing of all, they seem to thrive under pressure. The greater the challenge, the more innovative they become. High Chancellor Mordan raised one of his 6 arms, and the chamber fell silent. What is their current technological status? They have achieved faster-than-light communication through what they call quantum entanglement. Their first FTL spacecraft are currently in development, with projected completion within the next 50 years. At their current rate of advancement, they will possess technology rivaling our own within 500 years. The silence that followed was deafening. The Galactic Council's technological superiority had been the foundation of their power for 12 millennia. They controlled the flow of knowledge, carefully doling out new technologies to member species over thousands of years, ensuring that none could threaten the established order. There is another concern, Dr. Veltar added reluctantly. Our psychological analysis suggests that humans do not respond well to authority they perceive as illegitimate. They have a concept they call freedom that appears to be more important to them than safety or security. Historical records show they regularly rebel against oppressive governments, often succeeding despite overwhelming odds. Ambassador Thelana of the Peaceful Collective, her blue skin pale with worry, spoke up in her melodic voice. Surely we can guide them, as we have guided other species? Offer them membership in the Council. Help them develop responsibly. General Krixval's cybernetic word as it focused on her. And give them access to our technology, our databases, our strategic information. These humans would reverse engineer everything within decades and likely improve upon it. We would be handing them the keys to galactic dominance. Then, what do you propose? High Chancellor Mordun asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. Quarantine, General Krixval stated flatly. We establish a blockade around their solar system. We tell them they have been evaluated and found wanting, that they are too primitive and violent for galactic society. We maintain the blockade until their civilization collapses or evolves into something more manageable. Dr. Veltar shifted uncomfortably. Sir, based on their psychological profile, such an action might actually accelerate their development. Humans appear to be motivated by challenge and opposition. Telling them they are not advanced enough might prompt them to prove otherwise. Then, we tell them they are too advanced, suggested Ambassador Siwarthek of the Trade Federation, his mechanical voice synthesizing the words. We inform them that their rapid development violates galactic law and that they must cease all technological advancement. And if they refuse? Asked Ambassador Thelana. The chamber fell silent again. Every species in the galaxy had accepted the Council's authority when contacted. The combination of overwhelming technological superiority and the promise of guided advancement had always been sufficient. But the humans were different. High Chancellor Mordun stood, his imposing figure casting long shadows across the chamber. We will craft a carefully worded message. We will tell them that their rapid advancement threatens galactic stability, which is true. We will inform them that they must halt all development and submit to Council oversight, which is necessary. And we will make it clear that failure to comply will result in consequences. What kind of consequences? Dr. Veltar asked quietly. The kind that have maintained galactic peace for 12,000 years, the High Chancellor replied ominously. 3 days later, the message was sent. It was transmitted on every frequency the humans used for communication, ensuring it could not be ignored or dismissed as a hoax. The translation matrix made certain it would be understood in every human language simultaneously. The message was formal, authoritative, and absolute. To the species known as humans of the planet Sol, 3. You have been evaluated by the Galactic Council and found to be developing at a rate that threatens the stability of galactic civilization. You are hereby ordered to cease all technological advancement and submit to Council oversight. Failure to comply will result in enforcement action. You have one of your solar years to demonstrate compliance. This is not a negotiation. On Earth, the message was received by every radio telescope, every satellite, and every communication device on the planet simultaneously. Within hours, it had been confirmed as genuine by the world's leading scientists. The implications were staggering. Humanity was not alone in the universe, but their new neighbors considered them a threat. President Sarah Chun of the United Earth government stood before the emergency session of the Global Assembly, her face grim but determined. Ladies and gentlemen, we have received an ultimatum from an alien civilization that claims to rule the galaxy. They demand we stop advancing technologically and submit to their control. The assembly chamber buzzed with worried conversations. Director James Harrison of the Global Space Initiative leaned forward in his seat. Madam President, our analysis suggests this Galactic Council possesses technology far beyond our current capabilities. Their ability to transmit this message simultaneously to every communication device on Earth demonstrates a level of advancement we can barely comprehend. Are you suggesting we comply? Asked General Maria Santos, her weathered face showing the strain of the past few days. I'm suggesting we consider our options carefully, Harrison replied. If they have the technology to enforce their demands. President Chun held up her hand for silence. The message was clear about one thing. They gave us a year to comply. That means they either need time to organize their response, or they expect us to simply surrender without a fight. Either way, it buys us time. Dr. Alan Reeves, the Director of Advanced Technologies, stood up from his seat. Madam President, I've been analyzing the transmission method used for their message. The technology required is at least 200 years ahead of our current capabilities, but I believe I understand the principles involved. If we mobilize every resource, every brilliant mind on this planet, we might be able to develop countermeasures. Countermeasures against an interstellar civilization? General Santos asked skeptically. Dr. Reeves smiled grimly. General, throughout human history, We have faced impossible odds and found ways to prevail. We've survived ice ages, plagues, world wars, and every catastrophe the universe has thrown at us. We're still here because we don't surrender, and we don't give up. They want us to stop advancing? They just gave us the greatest motivation for advancement in human history. President Chen nodded slowly. Dr. Reeves is right. The Galactic Council has made a fundamental error. They've threatened humanity directly, and they've given us time to respond. They clearly don't understand what that means. She turned to address the full assembly. Ladies and gentlemen, we stand at a crossroads. We can submit to alien overlords who view us as a threat simply because we dare to advance and innovate, or we can show them exactly why they were right to fear us. The vote was unanimous. Within days, the global emergency protocol was activated. Every nation on Earth contributed their best scientists, engineers, and military strategists to a unified effort. The message from the Galactic Council was broadcast to every human on the planet, along with a simple statement from the Global Assembly: we do not kneel. Dr. Elena Vasquez, leading the quantum physics team, made the first breakthrough. The aliens' message traveled instantaneously across interstellar distances. They're using quantum entanglement on a massive scale, but the energy requirements should be enormous. Either they have unlimited power, or they found a way to make the process incredibly efficient. Her team worked around the clock, building on decades of research into quantum mechanics. Within weeks, they had developed a prototype quantum communication array that could potentially reach other star systems. It was crude compared to the alien technology, but it was a start. Meanwhile, Dr. Singh's propulsion team made an even more significant discovery. The aliens clearly have faster-than-light travel, but the physics of their message transmission gives us clues about how it works. If we can reverse engineer even the basic principles. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Kim Nakamura, a theoretical physicist who had been working on exotic matter research, discovered that certain rare isotopes could create tiny, temporary wormholes when subjected to specific electromagnetic frequencies. It wasn't faster-than-light travel yet, but it was a proof of concept that such travel was possible. The military preparations were equally intensive. General Santos coordinated with defense contractors worldwide to accelerate the development of every advanced weapons system in progress. The railguns, particle beam weapons, and nuclear pulse propulsion systems that had been decades away from deployment were suddenly given unlimited funding and priority status. But the most significant development came from an unusual source. Dr. Marcus Webb, a marine biologist studying extremophile bacteria, made a discovery that would change everything. While analyzing the alien messages transmission patterns, he noticed similarities to the way certain bacteria communicated through bioelectric fields. What if, he proposed to the assembled team leaders, the aliens' technology isn't just mechanical? What if it's biological, or a hybrid of biological and mechanical systems? The idea sparked a revolution in thinking. Human technology had always been purely mechanical or electronic, but life had been solving complex problems for billions of years. If they could combine biological systems with human engineering, Dr. Sarah Chun, a bioengineering specialist and cousin to the president, began experimenting with genetically modified organisms that could interface with electronic systems. Within months, her team had created living computers that could process information faster than any silicon-based system. The implications were staggering. If the aliens expected humans to fight with conventional technology, they were about to be very surprised. As the deadline approached, humanity had transformed. The threat had done exactly what Dr. Reeves had predicted. It had motivated the greatest surge of innovation in human history. Technologies that should have taken decades to develop had been created in months. The entire planet had become a research laboratory, with every human contributing to the effort in some way. President Chen stood in the new command center built beneath the Swiss Alps, surrounded by displays showing the progress of dozens of research projects. Status report, she commanded. Quantum communication array is operational, reported Dr. Vasquez. We can now communicate instantaneously with our deep space monitoring stations. Prototype FTL drive has achieved successful short-range testing, added Dr. Singh. We can create stable wormholes large enough for small spacecraft. General Santos stepped forward. Military preparations are complete. Every weapon system on Earth has been upgraded with our new biomechanical hybrid technology. Our space-based defenses are operational, and we have the first squadron of FTL-capable fighters ready for deployment. Dr. Webb, now leading the biotechnology division, smiled confidently. The living ship project is ahead of schedule. Our vessels can now self-repair, adapt to new threats, and evolve their capabilities during combat. President Chen nodded, feeling a mix of pride and determination. And our response to their ultimatum? Dr. Reeves activated the main display, showing a sleek spacecraft unlike anything that had existed a year ago. The GSV Defiance is ready for launch. It incorporates every advancement we've made: biomechanical systems, quantum communication, FTL capability, and weapons that can adapt to any threat. It will deliver our response directly to their Galactic Council. And what response will it carry? President Chen asked, though she already knew the answer. Dr. Reeves smiled. A simple message, Madam President. We received your ultimatum. We choose option 3. We're coming to discuss this in person. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. In 1 year, humanity had not only refused to submit to alien authority, they had developed the technology to take the fight directly to their would-be oppressors. President Chen looked around at the assembled team leaders, these brilliant minds who had achieved the impossible. Ladies and gentlemen, the Galactic Council wanted to keep humanity contained because they feared what we might become. They were right to be afraid. She turned to General Santos. Launch the Defiance. It's time to introduce ourselves to the galaxy. High Chancellor Mordun stared at the holographic display in disbelief, his 6 arms trembling with a mixture of rage and fear. The impossible had happened. Not only had the humans rejected the Council's ultimatum, they had somehow developed faster-than-light travel and were now approaching Council space with a vessel that defied every known law of physics. Explain this to me again, he demanded, his voice echoing through the emergency session chamber. The 47 representatives sat in stunned silence, watching the tactical display that showed a single human vessel crossing the galaxy at speeds that should have been impossible for their primitive civilization. General Krixval's cybernetic implants flickered as he processed the incoming data. The human vessel appeared without warning at the edge of the Proxima sector, approximately 47 light-years from their home system. Our monitoring stations detected massive energy signatures consistent with artificial wormhole generation. Sir, they've somehow developed space-folding technology in less than 1 year. Impossible, hissed Ambassador Esikathar, his reptilian features contorted with disbelief. Space-folding technology requires understanding of 11-dimensional physics. It took the Council's greatest minds 3,000 years to develop the first crude prototypes, and another 2,000 to perfect them. Dr. Veltar, who had been analyzing the human vessel's specifications, cleared his throat nervously. Sir, there's more. The ship itself appears to be alive. The chamber erupted in panic chatter. Living starships were the stuff of ancient legends, theoretical constructs that existed only in the most advanced scientific papers. The idea that primitive humans had somehow created one was beyond comprehension. Alive how? High Chancellor Mordun asked, his voice deadly quiet. Dr. Veltar activated a detailed scan of the human vessel. The GSV Defiance appeared on the holographic display, its sleek form shifting and changing even as they watched. The hull appears to be composed of some form of biomechanical hybrid material. Our sensors detect cellular activity throughout the structure. The ship is literally breathing, growing, and adapting as it travels. It's repairing battle damage that doesn't exist yet, General Krixval observed, his tactical analysis programs running at maximum capacity. The ship is anticipating threats and developing countermeasures before encountering them. How is that possible? Evolutionary algorithms, Dr. Veltar replied, his voice filled with wonder and terror. The ship is running millions of combat simulations simultaneously, evolving its defenses against every possible threat. It's not just a vessel, it's an entire ecosystem designed for warfare. Ambassador Thelana of the Peaceful Collective leaned forward, her blue skin pale with worry. What are its intentions? Has it responded to our hails? It has acknowledged our communications, but refuses to alter course, reported Communications Director Zalthek. The response was brief. We are coming to discuss the terms of your surrender. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. For 12,000 years, the Galactic Council had been the ultimate authority in the galaxy. No species had ever dared to demand their surrender. Terms of our surrender? Ambassador Corthek's mechanical voice crackled with indignation. These primitives dare to threaten the Council. Primitives who developed technology in 1 year that took us millennia to achieve, Dr. Veltar reminded him grimly. We may need to reconsider our assessment of human capabilities. High Chancellor Mordun stood, his imposing figure casting shadows across the chamber. What are our military options? General Krixval activated the defense grid display. The home fleet consists of 800 vessels equipped with our most advanced weaponry. The fortress stations around Nexus Prime are armed with planet-killing weapons. Additionally, we have the Council Guard's elite squadrons standing by. And their assessment of this single human vessel? General Krixval hesitated. Sir, our battle computers are having difficulty generating victory scenarios. The ship's adaptive capabilities make it nearly impossible to predict its responses to our weapons. However, it is only one vessel against our entire fleet. Deploy the home fleet. Mordun ordered. Intercept the human ship before it reaches the core systems. We will demonstrate the consequences of defying the Council. As the Council's warships moved to intercept the Defiance, aboard the human vessel, Captain Sarah Rodriguez stood on the biomechanical bridge, watching as the living walls pulsed with energy around her. The ship's consciousness, a hybrid of artificial intelligence and biological neural networks, communicated through direct interface with the crew. Captain, we're detecting a large fleet moving to intercept us, reported Lieutenant Commander Chun, his voice calm despite the magnitude of what they were facing. 800 vessels, various classes, all heavily armed. Captain Rodriguez smiled grimly. Any signs of the planet-killer weapons Dr. Singh's analysis predicted? Confirmed. Multiple fortress stations armed with weapons capable of sterilizing entire worlds. Lieutenant Commander Chen paused as new data flowed through the ship's neural networks. The Defiance's evolutionary systems are analyzing their technology now. The ship itself spoke then, its voice a harmonious blend of human and alien tones that resonated through the biomechanical structure. Captain Rodriguez, I have completed analysis of the approaching fleet. Their technology is approximately 200 years more advanced than baseline human technology, but their designs are static. They do not adapt or evolve during combat. Meaning? Rodriguez asked. Meaning they are fighting yesterday's war with yesterday's weapons, while I am evolving to fight tomorrow's war with tomorrow's weapons. Rodriguez turned to her communications officer. Open a channel to the lead Council vessel. The holographic display activated, showing the bridge of the Council flagship. General Krixval's cybernetic features filled the screen, his red optical implants glowing with mechanical precision. Human vessel, you are ordered to surrender immediately and submit to Council authority. You are outgunned 800 to 1. Resistance is futile. Captain Rodriguez leaned back in her biomechanical chair, which adjusted itself to provide optimal comfort and neural interface connectivity. General, I'm Captain Sarah Rodriguez of the Earth vessel GSV Defiance. We're here to discuss your ultimatum to our species. There is nothing to discuss. You have violated galactic law by developing forbidden technologies. Surrender now, and your species will be allowed to exist under Council supervision. Rodriguez laughed, a sound that seemed to echo through the ship's living systems. General, I think you misunderstand the situation. We're not here to surrender. We're here to explain why your ultimatum was unacceptable and what happens now. You are one ship against the might of the Galactic Council. General Krixval's voice crackled with indignation. We're one ship built by a species you threatened and gave a year to prepare, Rodriguez corrected. Did you really think we would spend that year cowering in fear? General Krixval's tactical displays showed the human vessel continuing its approach, seemingly oblivious to the overwhelming force arrayed against it. Last warning, human. Surrender or be destroyed. Counteroffer, Rodriguez replied. Withdraw your fleet and agree to negotiate as equals, or we'll demonstrate why you were right to fear human innovation. The channel closed. General Krixval turned to his weapons officer. Target the human vessel. All ships, open fire. 800 Council warships unleashed their fury simultaneously. Energy beams, missile salvos, and exotic matter weapons converged on the Defiance's position. The combined firepower was enough to vaporize a small moon. But the Defiance was no longer there. The ship had folded space around itself, appearing behind the Council fleet before the energy weapons had even reached its previous position. Worse, it had somehow absorbed the energy from the weapons that did connect, channeling it into its own systems. Impossible, General Krixval whispered as his sensors tried to track the human vessel. How did it survive that bombardment? His answer came in the form of return fire that defied everything the Council knew about warfare. The Defiance didn't use conventional weapons. Instead, it released swarms of what appeared to be living projectiles, each one adapting its approach based on the target vessel's defenses. The first Council ship to be hit was the heavy cruiser Determination. The living projectiles didn't explode on contact. Instead, they began to consume the ship's hull, converting its matter into more projectiles that sought out additional targets. Within minutes, the 1,000-meter vessel was gone, its entire mass transformed into an expanding cloud of adaptive weapons. "Sir, the human projectiles are learning," his weapons officer reported in terror. "Each one adapts to our defenses faster than the last. Our shields are becoming less effective with each impact. Fall back and regroup," General Krixval ordered, but it was too late. The Defiance had folded space again, this time appearing in the middle of the Council formation. The human ship began to change, its biomechanical hull expanding and reshaping itself into something that looked more like a massive organism than a spacecraft. Tentacle-like appendages emerged from the hull, each one capable of independent movement and armed with adaptive weapons. The Defiance had become a living battle station, its weapons systems evolving in real time to counter every defense the Council threw at it. "General, we're losing ships faster than our computers can track," reported the tactical officer. "The human vessel is somehow fighting all 800 of our ships simultaneously and winning." General Krixval watched in horror as his fleet, the pride of the Galactic Council's military might, was systematically dismantled by a single human vessel. Ships that had taken decades to build were being destroyed in minutes, their crews never even having a chance to understand what was killing them. "Sir, incoming transmission from the human vessel," the communications officer announced. Captain Rodriguez appeared on the screen again, but now she was surrounded by the ship's biomechanical systems, which seemed to be interfacing directly with her neural patterns. When she spoke, it was with the voice of both human intelligence and alien evolution. "General Krixval, we've analyzed your fleet's capabilities. Your technology is impressive but static. You build your weapons to known specifications and never improve them. You plan your battles based on previous encounters and never adapt to new threats. You've become so comfortable with your superiority that you've forgotten how to innovate." Around her, displays showed the tactical situation. Of the original 800 Council vessels, fewer than 200 remained, and those were fleeing as fast as their engines could carry them. "You wanted to know what makes humans dangerous, General? We don't accept limitations. When you tell us something is impossible, we take that as a challenge. When you threaten us, we don't just survive, we evolve." The Defiance had stopped its pursuit of the fleeing vessels, instead holding position at the edge of Council space. But something new was happening. The ship was launching smaller vessels, each one a perfect hybrid of human engineering and adaptive biology. "These are our ambassadors," Rodriguez continued. "Living ships capable of independent thought and evolution. They're heading to every Council world, every member species, every station and outpost in your territory. They carry the same message. Humanity is no longer asking for permission to exist. We're informing you that the galaxy has new players." General Krixval's cybernetic systems were overloading as he tried to process what he was seeing. "What do you want?" "What we've always wanted, General. The right to exist, to grow, to explore, and to become whatever we're capable of becoming. The Council tried to stop that, so now we're stopping the Council. You cannot defeat the entire Galactic Council with one ship." Rodriguez smiled, and for a moment, General Krixval could see the predatory intelligence that had driven humanity to the top of their world's food chain. "General, you still don't understand. We don't have one ship. We have an entire species that you've just motivated to surpass you." The holographic display shifted, showing long-range scans of the Sol system. Where once there had been a single world with primitive technology, now there were massive construction platforms in orbit around every planet. Hundreds of vessels like the Defiance were under construction, each one an improvement over the last. "You gave us a year to comply with your ultimatum," Rodriguez explained. "We used that year to ensure we would never need to comply with anyone's ultimatum ever again." The transmission ended, leaving General Krixval staring at the empty screen. Around him, his bridge crew worked frantically to coordinate the retreat of what remained of the home fleet. The unthinkable had happened. The Galactic Council's military had been defeated by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Back at Nexus Prime, High Chancellor Mordan received the reports from the battle with growing dread. The humans had not just defeated the home fleet. They had demonstrated technology that made the Council's greatest achievements look crude by comparison. Living ships that evolved during combat, weapons that learned from their targets, and space-folding capabilities that allowed them to appear anywhere instantly. Options, he demanded of the assembled council. We could attempt to negotiate, suggested Ambassador Thelana, her voice barely above a whisper. Perhaps we can reach some form of accommodation. Accommodate them? Ambassador Sekthar hissed. They've just destroyed our fleet and announced their intention to contact every species in the galaxy. They're going to undermine everything we've built. Dr. Veltar was studying the tactical reports, his expression growing more troubled by the minute. Sirs, I'm afraid the situation is even worse than we thought. The human ambassadors aren't just ships. They're carrying the complete technological specifications for everything they've developed. They're offering to share their advances with any species that wants them. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. For 12,000 years, the Council had maintained power by controlling the flow of technology. They decided which species received which advances and when. It was the foundation of their authority, and the humans were offering to give it all away freely. They're not trying to conquer the galaxy, Dr. Veltar continued. They're trying to liberate it. They want every species to have the same freedom to develop that they've claimed for themselves. High Chancellor Mordun felt something he hadn't experienced in millennia, genuine fear. Not fear of death or defeat, but fear of irrelevance. The humans weren't trying to replace the Council's authority with their own. They were trying to eliminate the concept of galactic authority altogether. The emergency council session will remain in permanent session, he announced. We need to develop a response to this crisis before. He was interrupted by an alert tone. Communications Director Zalthek looked up from his console, his expression grave. Sir, we're receiving reports from across the galaxy. The human ambassadors have reached 17 different systems already. They're actually doing it. They're sharing their technology freely with anyone who wants it. And the response from our member species? Sir, 3 species have already declared independence from the Council. They say they no longer need our guidance now that they have access to human technology. The others are reconsidering their membership agreements. High Chancellor Mordun sank into his chair, the weight of 12,000 years of galactic governance pressing down on him. In less than 2 days, everything the Council had built was crumbling. The humans had done something no previous threat had ever accomplished. They had made the Council irrelevant. Outside the great windows of the Council chamber, Nexus Prime sparkled with the lights of 1 billion beings from dozens of worlds. It had been the center of galactic civilization for millennia, but High Chancellor Mordun could already see its future. The humans weren't coming to conquer it. They were making it unnecessary. The greatest civilization in galactic history was about to learn what it meant to face a species that didn't want to rule the galaxy. They wanted to free it. 6 months after the Battle of Nexus Prime, the galaxy had transformed beyond recognition. Captain Sarah Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the GSV Defiance, watching as the great space stations of the former Council territories bustled with activity unlike anything they had seen in millennia. Ships from dozens of species moved freely between systems, no longer bound by the restrictive travel permits that had once controlled their movements. Captain, incoming transmission from Earth Command, announced Lieutenant Commander Chen from the bridge. The ship's biomechanical nervous system carried his voice through the living corridors to where Rodriguez stood. She made her way back to the bridge, where the familiar face of President Sarah Chun appeared on the holographic display. The president looked tired but satisfied, the stress of the past months evident in her features. Captain Rodriguez, I'm calling to inform you that the Global Assembly has voted to establish the Terra Collective as humanity's representative in galactic affairs. You've been selected to serve as our first galactic ambassador. Rodriguez smiled wryly. Madam President, considering that we've essentially dissolved the galactic government that used to handle these matters, I'm not sure what that position entails. That's exactly why we need you to figure it out, President Chen replied. The reports from across the galaxy indicate that our technology sharing program has been even more successful than we hoped. 17 species have achieved faster than light travel in just 6 months. The Zephyrians have developed living atmospheric processors that can terraform dead worlds. The Kethmori have created crystal-based computers that think at the speed of light. Rodriguez nodded, having witnessed the changes firsthand during the Defiance's travels. It's been remarkable to see what happens when species are free to innovate without restrictions. The Peaceful Collective has already established 3 new colonies using technology they developed themselves in the past few months. And the former council members? That's more complicated, Rodriguez admitted. About half have adapted well to the new paradigm. They're contributing to the technology-sharing networks and establishing direct relationships with other species. But the other half, She paused, pulling up tactical displays that showed the current state of former Council space. About 20 species have formed what they're calling the Stabilization Coalition. They're trying to maintain the old ways, keeping tight control over their territories and limiting contact with the contaminated worlds that have adopted human technology. President Chen frowned. Are they a threat? Not militarily. Their technology is still static, while everyone else is advancing rapidly. But they're creating isolated pockets of the old system, and some of their rhetoric suggests they blame humanity for the chaos that followed the Council's collapse. What about the Council leadership itself? Rodriguez's expression darkened. High Chancellor Mordun and his inner circle have retreated to a secure facility on Nexus Prime. They've been quiet. Too quiet. Our intelligence suggests they're working on something they call the Restoration Protocol. President Chen leaned forward in her chair. Any idea what that involves? We're not sure, but Dr. Singh's team has detected massive energy buildups in the Nexus system. Whatever they're planning, it requires more power than we've ever seen them use before. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert from the Defiance's sensor arrays. The ship's consciousness spoke in its harmonious hybrid voice. Captain, detecting massive spatial distortions throughout the galaxy. Something is attempting to manipulate the fundamental structure of space-time itself. Rodriguez turned to her crew. All stations, battle alert. Chun, give me a galaxy-wide scan. The holographic display expanded to show the entire galactic spiral. Red warning indicators were appearing across hundreds of systems, all showing the same phenomenon. Reality itself was being rewritten. Captain, incoming priority transmission from Nexus Prime, announced the communications officer. The display switched to show High Chancellor Mordun standing in what appeared to be a vast chamber filled with ancient technology. His 6 arms moved in complex patterns as he operated controls that predated the Council itself. Citizens of the galaxy, he began, his voice broadcasting on all frequencies simultaneously. For 6 months, we have watched as chaos has consumed our ordered civilization. Species that should be guided have been set loose to develop dangerous technologies without wisdom or restraint. The natural order has been disrupted by the interference of a primitive species that does not understand the responsibilities of power. Rodriguez felt a chill as she recognized the technology in the background. My God, that's a temporal manipulation array. A real one. Today, we activate the Restoration Protocol. Mordun continued. This galaxy will be returned to its proper state. The last year will be undone. The humans will never achieve faster-than-light travel, will never threaten galactic stability, and will never spread their chaos among civilized species. The Council will prevent their rise from the beginning. Rodriguez grabbed her communications controls. All ships, all stations, emergency broadcast. Nexus Prime is attempting to rewrite history. They're going to undo everything that's happened since they first contacted Earth. But, even as she spoke, she could see the temporal distortions spreading outward from the Nexus system like ripples in space-time itself. Stars began to flicker as their histories were rewritten. Entire civilizations found themselves suddenly reverting to earlier stages of development. Captain, the ship's consciousness announced, I am detecting something unexpected. The temporal manipulation is encountering resistance. Rodriguez looked at the displays in confusion. Resistance from what? From the technologies we shared. Each species that received our adaptive technology has unconsciously modified it to suit their unique needs and perspectives. The result is a network of interconnected innovations that exists across multiple dimensions of space-time simultaneously. As they watched, the temporal waves from Nexus Prime began to distort and fragment as they encountered the modified human technologies. The living ships, evolutionary computers, and biomechanical systems that had been shared across the galaxy were proving resistant to temporal manipulation. The Council's array was designed to rewrite static technology and linear development, the ship explained. But our technology evolves and adapts in real time. It exists in multiple temporal states simultaneously. The array cannot lock onto a single point in its development to erase. Rodriguez smiled grimly as she realized what was happening. So their attempt to undo our technology sharing is being blocked by the very diversity of adaptations that resulted from it. Correct, Captain. However, the temporal strain is building toward a cascade failure. If the Council continues their attempt to force temporal reversal, they may tear apart the fabric of space-time itself. Rodriguez opened communications to every ship, station, and world that had received human technology. This is Captain Rodriguez of the Terra Collective. Nexus Prime is attempting to erase our shared technological development from history. All adaptive systems need to synchronize their evolutionary patterns to create a stable temporal anchor. What happened next was unprecedented in galactic history. Billions of living machines, from the vast atmospheric processors of the Zephyrians to the crystal minds of the Kethmori, began to synchronize their adaptive processes. Each species' unique modifications to human technology created a harmonic resonance that spread across the galaxy at faster-than-light speeds. On Nexus Prime, High Chancellor Mordun watched in growing alarm as his temporal manipulation array began to overload. Impossible. The array has enough power to rewrite the entire galactic timeline. Dr. Veltar, who had been monitoring the process, looked up from his instruments with wonder and terror. Sir, the human's technology isn't just resisting the temporal changes. It's evolving to counteract them. Every modification we attempt is being met by an automatic adaptation from their shared network. Then, increase the power. Mordun ordered. Sir, we're already at maximum output. If we increase power further, we risk creating a temporal paradox that could destroy the galaxy. But Mordun was beyond reason. 12,000 years of absolute authority had come to an end because of one primitive species, and he would not accept it. Increase power. Restore the proper order. The ancient array responded to his commands, drawing energy from the very fabric of space-time itself. For a moment, it seemed as though the temporal reversal might succeed. Stars across the galaxy flickered as their histories wavered between different timelines. Then, the network of adaptive technologies responded. Instead of simply resisting the temporal manipulation, they began to learn from it. Each attempt to rewrite history was analyzed, understood, and countered by an exponentially growing intelligence that spanned the entire galaxy. The shared network didn't just adapt to the Council's attack, it evolved beyond it. On the Defiance, Rodriguez watched in awe as the ship's consciousness expanded its connection to every piece of adaptive technology in the galaxy. When it spoke now, it was with the voice of a million species working in harmony. Captain Rodriguez, we have achieved something unprecedented. The temporal attack has forced our various technologies to merge into a single, galaxy-spanning consciousness. We are no longer separate species sharing technology. We have become something new. What kind of something new? Rodriguez asked, though part of her already knew the answer. A truly galactic civilization. Not one ruled by a council of elites, but one composed of every species, every individual, every unique perspective working together as equals. The Council's attempt to prevent this through temporal manipulation has actually caused it to happen instantly. On Nexus Prime, the ancient temporal array began to collapse under the impossible strain of trying to rewrite a timeline that was actively rewriting itself in response. High Chancellor Mordun realized too late that he had not just failed to restore the old order. He had accelerated the creation of something far beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. Sir, temporal cascade is imminent, Dr. Veltar reported, his voice filled with scientific fascination despite the danger. The array is going to tear itself apart, and when it does, it will release all the temporal energy it has been channeling. And then? Dr. Veltar smiled, the expression strange on his usually serious features. Then, every species in the galaxy will exist in multiple timelines simultaneously. We will have access to the knowledge and experiences of every possible version of ourselves. The human's gift of adaptation will become universal. High Chancellor Mordun stared at the collapsing array in horror. We were trying to prevent galactic chaos. No, sir, Dr. Veltar replied quietly. We were trying to prevent galactic evolution. And we have just ensured that it happens all at once. The temporal array exploded in a cascade of chronoton energy that washed across the entire galaxy. But instead of destroying everything, it gave each species access to the sum total of their potential developments across all possible timelines. Captain Rodriguez felt the wave pass through the Defiance and through herself. For a moment, she experienced every possible version of humanity's contact with the galaxy. Timelines where they had submitted to the Council, timelines where they had conquered it, timelines where they had never developed FDL travel at all. But in all those timelines, one thing remained constant. When humanity was threatened, they adapted, they innovated, and they refused to surrender. Captain, the now truly galactic consciousness spoke through every adaptive device in existence. We have a proposal for the former High Chancellor and his associates. Rodriguez looked at the display showing Nexus Prime, where the surviving council members were emerging from their destroyed facility in complete defeat. What kind of proposal? The same one we've made to every species. Join us as equals. Learn from us, teach us, grow with us. The age of being ruled is over. The age of being free has begun. Rodriguez opened a communication channel to Nexus Prime. High Chancellor Mordun appeared on the screen, no longer the imposing figure of absolute authority. He looked old, tired, and utterly defeated. High Chancellor, this is Captain Rodriguez. Your restoration protocol has failed, but something better has succeeded. The galaxy is now truly united, not under any government or council, but as a community of equals sharing knowledge and growing together. Mordun stared at her for a long moment. And what of the council? What of those who tried to prevent this? The same thing we offer everyone. The chance to join us, to contribute your knowledge and experience to the collective growth of the galaxy. The Council's 12,000 years of experience in galactic governance could be invaluable in helping us organize our new civilization. As equals, Mordun asked, the concept still alien to someone who had wielded absolute power for millennia. As equals, Rodriguez confirmed. That's what makes us human, High Chancellor. We don't want to rule the galaxy. We want to help it rule itself. Mordun was silent for a long time, processing the implications of a galaxy where no one held ultimate authority, where every species and individual had equal voice in their collective future. Finally, he spoke. We accept your proposal, though I fear we may have much to learn about this equality concept. Rodriguez smiled. Learning is what we're all here for, High Chancellor. That's what the Galactic Council got wrong from the beginning. They thought the galaxy needed rulers. What it actually needed was teachers. The transmission ended, leaving Rodriguez standing on the bridge of the Defiance as it sailed through a galaxy that was now truly free for the first time in its history. Around her, the ship's biomechanical systems pulsed with the collective intelligence of billions of beings across thousands of worlds, all working together to explore, to learn, and to grow. Captain, President Chen's voice came through the quantum communicator. I'm receiving reports from across the galaxy. It's remarkable. Every species is sharing not just technology now, but art, philosophy, science, even recipes. The humans in the outer colonies are learning to sculpt with crystalline matrices from the Keth Mori. The Zephyrians are teaching atmospheric dancing to anyone with the right modifications. Rodriguez nodded, watching through the ship's sensors as vessels from dozens of species work together to explore a newly discovered nebula that might contain the birthplace of life itself. It's what we always hoped the galaxy could be, isn't it? Not a place where the strong rule the weak, but where everyone contributes whatever they're best at. And it all started because the Council made one crucial error, President Chen observed. What was that? President Chen's laugh carried across the quantum link. They told humans they couldn't do something. That's never been a good strategy for controlling our species. Rodriguez looked out at the stars, each one now representing not a potential conquest or resource to be controlled, but a neighbor to be met, a friend to be made, a teacher to learn from or student to instruct. The galaxy had become what humanity had always believed it could be, a place where anyone could grow, explore, and become whatever they were capable of becoming. The Galactic Council had lied when they said humanity was too dangerous for galactic civilization. They had been absolutely right about humanity being dangerous to their kind of civilization, one based on control, restriction, and fear of change. But humanity had proven that there was another kind of civilization possible, one based on cooperation, innovation, and the radical idea that everyone deserved the freedom to reach their full potential. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly the point.